a former member of the Dimes, very experienced female entertainer, Calypso Queen of the World on 5 occasions. Would you please put your hand together? Let's welcome Singing Francine.
Thank you. Hate, greed, color, racism is destroying the universe. I am totally against that. The title of my song, Equal Rights. That's my contribution for the evening, ladies and gentlemen. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Equal rights. I've studied days and nights, I've studied blacks and whites on the question of equal rights. I say I studied days and nights, studied blacks and whites on the question of equal rights. Well, after careful consideration, meditation has brought me to one conclusion. The old, the young, the weak and the strong, only fighting a battle of equal wrong. Because everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat each other with scorn. The color of your skin doesn't mean a thing. Live and love and be satisfied. You already have your rights, so there is no need to fight. The right to live is the right to die. Thank you. It is a simple case that we cannot be faced. We all belong to the human race. So you can tell your bud, we all are made of mud, equivalently equal by flesh and blood. So what's the use of all this confusion, discrimination and fight for worldly possession? The rich, the poor, the weak and the small are equal in size when the master call. That's right. Everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat your brother with scorn. We have the same earth to live, the same life to give, and yet we will not unite. We ought to be ashamed to play a dirty game and then talking about equal rights. Some folks may think me rude, now I must conclude with those who show such ingratitude. The breath of life we share, the sun, the moon and air, are equal rights given to us here. We may not be the same in culture, skill and name, or in habits, fortune and fame. No matter who, why, what, when and where, now show me a man that's unequal here. Everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat each other with scorn. No matter what you possess, well, you don't have to guess. The master said, let there be light. Someday you will agree. Just take time and see. Everyone has an equal life. Boom, boom, boom. Now there are foolish men who know but still pretend. The laws of nature try to amend. No matter what you feel, the truth you can't conceal. And for sure, what is real is real. We may not be the same in culture, skill, and name, or in habits, fortune, and fame. No matter who, why, what, when, and where, just show me one man that is equal in none. Everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat your sister with scorn. We may differ in looks, in language, in shape, in ways, or even in height. But please don't forget, in life or in death, everyone has an equal right. Boom, boom. Love is the answer. Love is the only answer. Thank you, ladies. Mean a thing, live and love, and be satisfied. You already have your rights, so there is no need to fight. The right to live is the right to die. Thank you. It is a simple case that we cannot be faced. We all belong to the human race. So you can tell your bud, we all are made of mud, equivalently equal by flesh and blood. So what's the use of all this confusion, discrimination, and fight for worldly possession? The rich, the poor, the weak and the small are equal in size when the master call. That's right. Everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat your brother with scorn. We have the same earth to live, the same life to give, and yet we will not unite. We ought to be ashamed to play a dirty game and then talking about equal rights. Some folks may think me rude. Now I must conclude with those who show such ingratitude. The breath of life we share, the sun, the moon, and air are equal rights given to us here. We may not be the same in culture, skill, and name, or in habits, fortune, and fame. No matter who, why, what, when, and where. Now show me a man that's unequal here. Everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat each other with scorn. No matter what you possess, well, you don't have to guess. The master said, let there be light. Someday you will agree. Just take time and see. Everyone has an equal right. Now there are foolish men who know but still pretend. The laws of nature try to amend. No matter what you feel, the truth you can't conceal. And for sure, what is real is real. We may not be the same in culture, skill, and name, or in habits, fortune, and fame. No matter who, why, what, when, and where, just show me one man that is equal here. Everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat your sister with scorn. We may differ in looks, in language, in shape, or even in height. But please don't forget, in life or in death, everyone has an equal life. Boom, boom. Love is the answer. Love is the only answer. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, tell it to the world. Go tell it to the mountains that when God was giving gifts, He gave us West Indians, black people, enormous gifts. One of the sweetest voices to have graced this earth. Right up there, singing Francine. Right up there with Miriam Makeba. There are others, but that voice soaring across the Caribbean Sea, from island to island, from little outposts to little outposts, telling us everyone is born equal. That message must only come from the darkest among us and from these little islands called the West Indies, the old West Indies that we now call the Caribbean. Only we can speak to the world with such authenticity, reminding the world that everyone is born equal. We plea, we plead. We sing, we dance. Always saying something to the world to make it look up and acknowledge the beauty of humanity. Always when we speak and when we sing, the beauty must overcome the beast among us. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Apostle London is here, and we're going to talk tonight as we have to do, because the language we exert, the language we pull from deep inside our Caribbean belly is a language of hope. Martin Carter said, only hope. The kind eagle soars and wheels in flight. It is not easy to be free and bold. It is not easy to be poised and bound. It's not me, it's Martin Carter. So river flow, drench not my pillar feet. So river flow, collapse to estuary. Only the heart's life, the kind eagle soars and wheels in flight. The knife of dawn, Martin Carter talks. The dawn of a new day, a new era, always. Brother Jimmy Cliff is going to be laid to rest in 2 days. He says, many rivers to cross, but I can't seem to find my way over. Sometimes I feel like committing a dreadful crime. Always crossing rivers, whether it's the rivers of Babylon or whether we say down by the riverside, when it snatched us from our homeland and brought us to Chatterland, we began to cross rivers. Whether it's swimming back to Africa when it's over the Kanji water, always crossing rivers and opening up new vistas for ourselves and for those who came after us. Sometimes we do it without thanks. Sometimes those whom we free call us all kinds of names. We continue to show the world its compassion, always doing so. We send back to the ancestors, Brother Jimmy. We send back to the ancestors, Brother Ron Robinson. As a boy, as boys and girls of the 70s and the 60s and the 80s, we grew up with radio, the radio. The voices of the radio resonating, whether it's in the night, fighting with the crickets, the insects of the night to gain the attention of the country, or whether it's in the day as workers toil and as women take care of the home, cook and clean for us. The radio was always there. It was one of the instruments of liberation. To hear the voices of Guyana and the Caribbean on the radio was a thing of beauty. Brother Ron, we grew up. I grew up. We grew up. There were two Robinsons. There was Ray Robinson and Ron Robinson. Ray, I think, transitioned relatively early. And so many broadcasters came and went. But like the solid rock on which we stand, Ron Robinson stayed on for 60 years, 6 decades. He has gone with the ancestors. I met with him a few times. The last time must have been about 2 years ago. He called me and said he was emceeing at Christopher Ram's birthday party, and he wanted to roast him. So he wanted to talk with people who knew Christopher Ram. And he asked if he could speak with me. And of course, I'm always excited to speak with people like that. And I met him, I think, at Georgetown Club, or one of those fancy places in Georgetown. And before we began to talk, he started to tell me of his family's son had come in to give him a message. And then he talked to me about my origins and my politics. And he asked whether I thought where I was born, when I was born, and how I was born had something to do with my politics. And I said I am persuaded. And what was supposed to have been a 15-20 minute interview turned into a conversation that lasted for almost 3 hours. And I was very glad. I didn't know then that he was that sick and moving on, as we must, swimming back to Africa, swimming back to the ancestors. Love you, Ron. Guyana may not be always thankful for its blessings, but in times of death, we look up and we say, it's good to be a Guyanese. It's good to be a West Indian. It's good to be black. Good to be black. Walk good, my brother. Walk good. Rastaman say, Rasta woman say, one bright morning when my work is over, I will away home, fly away to Zion. Congo with the drum, the shoulder and the feet. Congo Creole, one be one. See them a go away, one be one. And the griots of old, those who taught people like me how to walk and talk, but not to talk to big men and big women anyhow. If I had wings like a dove, I would fly away. Fly away. And if I didn't have wings, I will sing and sing. Taking the language of the oppressor and painting images for the children to have something to look up to and to identify with. That's what we call identity. That which you identify with. I love being Guyanese. I love being West Indian. I love being black. I'm not going to give that up. I'm not going to give them up. We are marching on as we must. We are marching on to Zion. That beautiful, beautiful Zion. We have experienced it before, even in the doldrums of the slave plantation. We showered the world with love, whether it was the spirituals or the folk song. Always using our minds and our bodies to express ourselves. We rub them the wrong way sometimes, but always we teach them love. You all know that I'm having a little tangle with my comrades and friends and the constituents, because word is dripping down that the vice president may be ill, and I send love to him, urging him to get well. I call him my brother. If indeed in his time of stress, I say, brother, I love you, get well. Understandably, those who have been at the receiving end of the whiplash of oppression coming from this government are reticent about sending love the way of the vice president. I understand. I understand the pain of those who have been beaten up and beaten down. But I sacrifice myself. I take the curse from our people. Dr. Hines, that man has done bad thing to us. Don't send any get well to him. I take the whipping from my people to point to another direction that we have been before. When the shackles of enslavement came off of our feet and we took our foreparents, their little earned money, and they bought lands and left homes for us. They left their footprints in the wake of oppression. But they did more than buy lands. When the slave owners, the plantation owners, many of them went bankrupt, it was the free Africans who took their money and lent to their oppressors of yesterday. Oh yes, the black man, the black woman, the African Guyanese took their money and gave it as loan to the white man who enslaved them for centuries. And said, look, get yourself out of bankruptcy. We're a people of love, always. 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 And it is that tradition that allows me to say to our brother, if it is true that he is suffering, I love you. Many people are not certain that if I or Apostle London or Aubrey Norton or any one of our kind were ill, that the vice president would be kind to us. He was not kind. They were not kind to Mr. Granger when he was ill. But we cannot account for them. We cannot account for the acts of omission and their acts of oppression. We can only account for the conscience that we came with across the Middle Passage. And that conscience which has given us the strength to keep on always keeping on. We're ready to talk. Because sometimes the voice must resonate. Sometimes the voice must lead us. Lead us. Lead us, Heavenly Father. Lead us. Always. The words of one of my favorite Anglican hymns used to be 217 in the old Anglican hymnal. When comes the promised time that war shall be no more, and lust, oppression, crime shall flee thy face before. I learned those words as a boy. I remember Quayana pointing it to me, said, David, that's a revolutionary hymn. And I couldn't, in those days, connect it to hymn and revolutionary. Let's bring in Apostle London. As we look north, and the bullets of misguided governance rings out in Rhode Island among the children. Another shooting, another political shooting. I respect the Christians. I respect the religious people who say, when God is ready for you, you gotta go. But I think those two young people who perished yesterday at Brown University, God wasn't ready for them. I am prepared to face the wrath of God when my time comes if he thinks that I'm blaspheming. I'm prepared to face that. But I don't think God was ready for those two young people. I don't think God was ready for those who perished in Australia. We must know political violence and call it for what it is. I don't think God was ready for the 80 million people that were brought across the Atlantic, many of them who perished, whose bones are there at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean and at the bottom of the rivers of Babylon. Brother Edgar Methalza, one of our celebrated authors, that novel, My Bones and My Flute, set along the Berbice River. My bones and my flute. God wasn't ready for those souls. We must confront this world. God is not ready for those men and women who are being blown apart in the Southern Caribbean as the politicians search for a way to design the world in their image. God spared the lives of those passengers in the JetBlue flight that almost lost their lives as the JetBlue plane lifting off from Curacao almost collided with an American military plane. Oh God, our help in ages come. Our hope for years to come. We want to live for years to come. But those who we put power in their hands wants to quicken the demise of our sweet today. Apostle, in times like these, I call on you and those of your calling. Are we living in stubborn times? Or are we just victims of our own hands and minds? Talk to me.
Greetings to you, Dr. Hines, and to those who are viewing. I must say that I always enjoy the risks that you take, especially when you venture into the spiritual domain, to speak so passionately to that or those matters about which you would have done. A conversation of that nature would require us having, like you and Brother Ron Robertson, maybe 3, 4, 5 hours of conversing to speak to the concept of sovereignty, because sovereignty cannot be judged by humanity unless it's no longer sovereign. And but when you ask a question of that nature, I must speak from my faith's perspective and platform. And man was essentially created perfectly, but within many human beings reside an innate desire to self-destruct. We cannot escape the fact that we shouldn't, I should say, escape the fact that there are people in this world who consider to be extremely wicked, very evil people. And they're normally the ones who, because of the means by which they function, the unjust manner in which they operate, they normally end up on top in terms of many things. Economics, as we know, had the slave masters, as they're called. I call them devils, but people call them slave masters. Had they not been evil, slavery would not have existed. They had to have been extremely evil people to concoct such ideas. Unless I get myself into deeper waters, even the church was involved. Where you expected to find the most love, the church in Portugal said that this is profitable and that we were not to be considered human unless it's considered to be sinful. But if you deal with them as though they're not human beings, then it's not a problem. It's just some business you're transacting. So we do have this concept that requires deep thoughts and consideration, Dr. Hines, that in some cases the workings of a man's hand come into play. But my faith also teaches me that Yahweh, my God, has made the wicked. Interesting. Even for the day of destruction. So there's some people, according to my belief, who were created to be as wicked as they are. Because in the absence of such wicked men, how would we know that there's a God to whom we should cry when we need help? In the absence of such evil, how would we understand the power of loving? How would you understand the ability to forgive and to be merciful? Wait, don't make me preach now, so I might as well stop.
Apostle London here tonight. Apostle London, there is so much that is swirling around as we enter for most of us, the period of goodwill when the Almighty sent His only begotten Son to wash away the sins of the world so that we may live. We call it Christmas. It is religious, it is cultural, and one expects that as we move into this time, there will be a break from the politics of hate, the politics of oppression. And here we are entering this period with our people sitting in limbo, because they heard the promise from their government that part of their own patrimony will be given to them, will be made available to them so that they can take part in the festivity of the season. And they can do so with a full belly, which then will translate into a full heart. Dr. King always said the material and the spiritual, they're interlocked. And here we have our people waiting. There's a play called written by Samuel Beckett called Waiting for Godot. It's a one character play, and this man is waiting. He spent the entire play waiting for Godot. Samuel Beckett, one of my favorite playwrights, and our people are sitting waiting because the government made the promise of cash transfer. Bring to life for us, my brother, this symbolism of this moment, but also the actuality of it, because there's symbolism and there is essence. Something is not right with where we find ourselves. Talk to us about this cash transfer and the people waiting and the government promising. Conjure up it for
Yes.
us.
It's concerning to me that Guyanese adults would allow, and I'm using my word very carefully here, choosing them quite carefully, but without reservation, of course. Guyanese adults would allow Air Finale, of all people, to tell them that if you behave yourself. Let's begin with what was said. He wasn't speaking to my 10-year-old son or 9-year-old. He wasn't speaking to a 13-year-old. He was speaking to Guyanese of all ages, including those who are older than he is. And he would have said to Guyanese that if you behave yourselves, you'll get a cash grant for Christmas. That statement in itself was not met with enough resistance. And because of the culture that is developing, a very dangerous culture, I should say, this culture of being complacent when it comes to being regarded as people worthy of respect, Guyanese allow that to slide on by as though it were just something said in jest, it was just a joke. But one with the dictatorial proclivity, the tendency to become dictatorial in its nature is not to be taken lightly when he says certain things. And when Air Francis said to Guyanese, he said, hey, if you all behave yourselves, I give you a cash grant, that would be tantamount to him saying that he's aware of how much power resides in the ability to make decisions about the well-being of Guyanese. And instead of respecting the fact that they were empowered to have that power, he's now disregarding that fact. And people are left wondering now, what happens to us? How do we navigate this world in which we now find ourselves called Guyana, where that which is rightfully ours is now appearing to be that which we have to plead and ask, petition, grovel at the feet of those who have. But let me just present this to you all as well, Guyanese people. Unless you follow closely that which we earn, you may not understand carefully what Afanali is doing and Barra Jack doing others. In just up until July of this year, I think it would have been, we would have earned from oil alone $2.75 billion US dollars within 8 months. 540 plus billion Guyana dollars. The question, therefore, is, Dr. Hines, where does it go? Where did it go? Where is it going? What are they doing with this money? And I'll use a term tonight that hopefully others would comprehend. There are certain ministries and areas and of our society in which the PPP would have figured out that those are the areas where you are able to sift money very easily. Infrastructure, healthcare, of all things, education. Look at how many schools they claim to construct. These people are so amazing that they constructed what they claim to be hospitals to the tune of hundreds of millions, billions of dollars without proper staffing. Because that is what they're showing Guyanese. Say, listen, there is development, but for whom? Father, I say to us, and I'm happy to ask the question, Dr. Hines, that while Guyanese are wondering whether they'll get this cash grant, we must not forget that in what is considered to be one of the most rapid growing economies in the world, we have a 10% increase in poverty in our nation. What can cause a nation to rise from 48% to 58% of its population being below the poverty line, while you are considered to be the wealthiest nation in the world per capita? I'll tell you what. It is an act of gross disregard for the value of people in your country. And Air Finale has no intention if you ask me, of ensuring that Guyanese benefit from our patrimony. Because I will say this, and I have to say it consistently, that the day Guyanese are empowered economically, the PPP would no longer exist. And they know that. There must be a culture of always begging and hoping and appearing as though the life of this nation and our people lies in the hands of those. Well, we have to arise and demand what is rightfully ours and go to whatever extent it takes to send a very clear message that we shall not be treated as though that which we own is controlled by those who have been empowered to lead the country. Mustn't happen.
Apostle London, you've taken us to a place that I've been very hesitant to discuss. And you talk about the developing culture. I have given solidarity to the Guyanese people who are mainly opposition supporters, who are mainly African people who are sitting and waiting for this cash transfer. And I given my solidarity, the APNU and WPA, where I belong partisanly, have given our solidarity and say, give the people what you promised them. But even as I do that, like you, I am worried about this culture. When Professor Thomas first introduced the concept of cash grant, people said people are going to become dependent. They're going to take the money and go and drink rum and smoke dope and so on. That was the saying. But we have lived to see that that did not happen. What has happened is that the government has used the cash grant as a way of herding our people. And our people, grounded and wallowing as they are in poverty, acquiesce to a certain kind of begging for what is theirs. I cannot, I'm trying to, as I said, I'm very glad you took us there because I have been reluctant to go there. All right? Because you don't want to say to people who are 58% poverty?
58%. I think
20% in extreme poverty? Yeah. And you understand why people want this little small piece, because that's what it is. But you something about me, my being Guyanese, something about you being Guyanese and a Lindoner that don't sit right. Bit. Our people being made to grovel, and our people, I don't want to say acquiescing to groveling, but certainly, as you point out, turning a blind eye. I'd say this, I remember as a small boy, Burnham coming to Buxton and they vote fee, and he came to Buxton. And they're telling me, you know, he's not doing enough for Buxton and so on. And he calls them, you go, Sidney King, like, what I do for you? And I remember the big man led by a man named Tete said, you know, if he had, he would have given you all. But that's beside the point. We elect you.
Right.
That is what I am not hearing here. That there is a way in which our people seem to be softening. And you have taken us there. I think you have hit on something that as a Guyanese people, as an African people, as a poor people, as Linden, and I'm stressing Linden because Linden is a place that when God was sharing out defiance, he gave Linden more than he gave other places in Guyana and the Caribbean. Expand on that for me. Expand on that for me.
I must, my brother, because I would gain quite a few more enemies, and I love the fact that I do have them. But I don't, and I have to be very cautious about how I present this. I don't subscribe to this concept of cash grants to Guyanese people. You don't give me a grant of what I own. It's a right that I have. I don't know it's a cash grant. What we have to demand is that there is an arrangement made, a contract, as a matter of fact, with the people of our nation, that X percentage of our profit would be shared with the Guyanese people. That's a covenant that you make. I don't want any leader to tell me that if I behave myself, I get some money. Let me just share with all and sundry. When Ashley Singh said that I have to take my national ID card and go to some center somewhere, I'm going to take it out. Show them this. They see my photograph and say, take it to register for cash grant. I said, and I'll use the word, hell no. You're not talking to me. You cannot make me. I was born in Linden. Maxwell Ali is where I grew up. Christianburg. You can't tell a grown man like me I have to do anything to get anything from you. And I refuse to accept the $100,000 because of a principle. Don't tell me that I have to do anything to get what is rightfully mine. More so, don't make me feel as if whenever you feel like you give me what is mine. No. So I do not have, and I trust that our people in this nation will develop the strength and the courage to understand that you should not reduce yourself to asking for what is yours. Irfan Ali, Bara Jagger, and others were not elected to choose whether they'll give me what is rightfully mine as a Guyanese. They were elected to find ways of doing so in a manner that we accept. That's what they say. But the culture has shifted, Dr. Hines, and I see even our African brothers and sisters looking at Massa coming to them to say, instead of saying, we would not become slaves, they say, make me a servant of yours. And I have a problem with that concept. Because we were not, our history doesn't lend itself to that kind of behavior. What if our forefathers had said, keep us being whipped, beat us more, Massa, do whatever you want to do with us. For 400 years of battery would not be enough. Where would we have been today? Where would we have been if some of our indentured servants, the indentured servants, didn't say, well, we don't like Massa either because of what he's doing to us. We deserve better. Where would we have been? We have to resurrect the culture of resistance in order to survive. And I refuse to accept that Guyanese who are old enough can say to me that they accept this cash grant concept and not a contract concept. There has to be a contract, a covenant made with even the unborn of our nation, that you are entitled to that which have come out of our ground because it's your right to have it. And any leader who doesn't function in that manner should have a rude awakening from the people of our nation.
Well put. And it's the spirit of Tete from Boxland. What he was saying to Barnum, he was saying, look, don't tell me what Kwayana go give you. If Kwayana go give you wherever he think, but that is not what we are talking about. We are talking about you, the leader. And I remember Barnum, Barnum used to like to banter with people. He had a rare kind of relationship with the masses, and that he would abuse it. But Barnum I remember him getting serious and say, well, all right, you all tell me what going. And they proceeded to talk about drainage, because they were mainly farmers. Yeah. They proceeded to talk about the pig rearing and so on. And Barnum got down. But I think he was jolted into that native intelligence and understanding about what politics and governance are about, and what you are talking about, the culture of I'm not begging for what belongs to me.
No.
And I think that's where they've driven our people. They tell us that our people that smoke out the money and drink out the money. And that has not happened, but they've done something worse than if people are taking the money and drink it out. They're forcing our people to grovel.
Yeah.
And I think people like us have a responsibility to say, we ain't telling you not to raise your voice for the money, but you ought not to grovel.
Correct.
You ought to demand it. And you ought to demand it, as you call it, a contract. Put it in law. What all people say, put them in black and white.
Right.
Put them in black and white. So that I don't have to behave myself. You think Burnham could have go to Buxton or Linden and tell them they got to behave themselves? First of all, he would not have thought about doing it. Because
No.
he had more respect for people. And secondly, had he done it, he would get the length of the tongue, the collective tongue of the people. But it shows where the PPP has driven. And I like when you use the word culture, because this is slowly, and perhaps not so slowly, becoming a culture. Becoming a culture. And I think we have to tell our people, you can't go on like that.
No.
Don't tell me it's a game you're playing. Because over time, a game becomes a serious thing. We have to be very careful with this whole thing about playing a game. Right? It's not a game. This is not a game where you are acquiescing in order to get a grant. No. Martin Carter said the mouth is muzzled by the food it eats. And you can be muzzled by the very food that you eat. Or people say, careful with the soup you drink. Because you go down your throat and burn more than your mouth.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think we have to find ways of speaking to our people without insulting them. That's why you were very careful to say, be careful. You want to be careful about how you're formulating it. Because some of them would say, whoa, Apostle Landon and David Hines, they get anything for gay people? Whoa. Right? So, sisters and brothers, we have to be very careful about what we are doing. We got to be very careful about what we're doing. Brother.
Permit me, please, Doctor. Permit me.
Go ahead.
Because you started with the tone of a preacher, a very pensive one at that. And I know that Irfan may be upset, and he should be upset. But this has happened too often. And this, I'm speaking here to the. I don't celebrate Christmas, by the way. Because of the what happened to my forefathers.
Right.
The only time when they were allowed to eat certain things and wear master clothes was you see, when I understand history, certain things don't pass well by me. See, if they were free to be who they were, then fine. But nobody's going to impose some religious concept on me and then beat me the next day. When you party with me last night, then tomorrow night it looks again after Christmas is over. I'm not going to do that. But there is a great percentage. Actually, there's a census of 2012, I think it would have been somewhere around there, where 55% of our population would have identified as Christian. Now, this is critical, Dr. Hines. 55% of this population identifies as Christian. How can a president who knows that decide that the best time of year to punish you, when he knows they spend the most money at this time of year, people try to buy so many things and gifts and share love, as you spoke to it, he decides, not at Pagwa, not at Eid, And I'll tell you what I have to tell you tonight, Irfan. I'm talking to Dr. Isaac, so put it on me. The same thing with Easter in school. Park where everybody throw a beer, whatever it is. When it came to Easter, a circle was sent. Children must remain in class, no kite flying. So what is it about this regime and Christendom? It is thought-provoking, and it warrants a conversation. Because it can't be an accident that when it comes to 55% of your population, you decide that you're not behaving themselves, so no Christmas money for y'all. What kind of behavior is that? But you know what happened? He realized that principle. The principle is that when leaders are silent, religious leaders across the board, when you are silent, then there is an invasion of other ideologies that destroy your people. And worst, at election, I saw so many preachers lauding the PPP. They weren't speaking to, there must be fairness and equity, and it's wrong for them to utilize state media as much as they did. And I guess we get into all that. No. They said, what you did, Irfan, is good, and we have your back. Now, that is why he now believes that he could do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, even at a time when the churches across this country expect to have a season of goodwill and cheer. I had to say that. Forgive me.
And well said, my brother. I was just about to take us there to say you and I were part of the conventional politics in the election season, and given our ideological origins and trajectory, we are always having to contend with the limitations of the formal electoral culture and our own understanding of how politics and governance work. In some instances, we muzzle ourselves in order to make sure the thing has gone smoothly. Talk to us about how you were able to navigate the limitations of electoral politics and the hope and profundity of your own ideological origins and trajectory.
I love that, Dr. Hines, because it required a level of maturity, I think, and I credit it to my father, Errol London. I hope he's watching. Daddy has an amazing way of how he functioned, and he taught me this. How do you navigate and cautiously function in a space where your principles and your ideologies are not so affected that you become another person, but you respect the fact that the circle in which you find yourself, which would be elections at that time, didn't warrant one of a particular strength in one area, but weakness in that you don't understand that you're dealing with a wider array of people and a broader spectrum of personalities. So I was able to ensure that which I stand for and stand on would not have been compromised in any way. But in another area, I recognized that what Guyana needed at that time would have been voices of courage and strength. And voices, as I said then, that when we look forward, we'll say that, hey, there were people who told us about it, who warned us that if we are not cautious and careful, then Irfan and Barrett and others will deceive you. So they'll promise you things and they'll say that they care about you. But then if you're not cautious and you choose to go down this path with them, they'll become exactly what they've always been. And so now I am at ease mentally to realize or to really accept the fact that some of us were used as horns and sirens to warn and to say, do not go down this path, lest you find yourself in hot water in the end. And that helped me to go through that process, as I said. And I've learned to compartmentalize. I typically, my head is big, so I have chambers in here. And I know that there's a part of me that can speak to something, while the other part says, do not address that right now.
Do not address it.
And I know that our culture, I use the word culture again, even our electoral culture, doesn't lend itself to consistent truth because we were trained to vote for who we like, not who tells us the truth. And that has to change very quickly.
Yes, yes. You know, Walter Rodney used to say that a scholarship had a political objective.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, yeah. And so he saw himself as a gorilla in academia.
Yeah,
So the academy was a means to an end. And they had coined the term scholar activist and activist scholar. And so you find people like himself and Clive Thomas who dedicate their scholarship towards a political outcome, as opposed to those whose scholarship, great scholarship, I may say, but it was an end in itself and not a means to an end. And I think, that helps us, that concept helps us when you mount an electoral platform and know that, you have to go three-quarter sentence rather than go the full
right,
sentence.
right.
And you have to find ways and mean of folding the whole sentence in three-quarter sentence and so on. But I wanted to get that in with you precisely because of your own politics and your own activism going into the election, and wanted to sound you out about how you think, because part of the thing is that radicals sometimes believe that you gotta leave the formal politics to them. All right. And I know my generation made that mistake. We ain't worrying. They used to call it, what they used to call it? They used to call it once every 5 years democracy. They used to say it's a democracy for once every 5 years, and so on. And I remember Clive Thomas saying, but we cannot surrender the right to vote to people because many people died for the right to vote.
That's right.
We can't call it bourgeois democracy because bourgeois people and die for the right to vote. It's working people. And I remember being shocked to my senses. You're young and you don't worry. Elections are not important. We have to revolution and so on.
Yeah.
And Clive Thomas, God bless him, said there ain't no bourgeois democracy. Bourgeois and rich people and die for the right to vote. The right to vote is poor people who died for it, and we gotta claim it. Thanks, my brother, for steering us in this direction. Let's stay on election because the EU, they gave a preliminary report and then later on a full report. And in many regards, the report that they gave is the same old story. But for some reason this year, it had a different resonance because they used a methodology that was different. They did not confine the election to election day.
Right.
And you referenced it earlier, the use of the media and so forth. So they use a broader methodology. And so therefore, in a sense, introduce us to a new definition of what free and fair elections are. But the European Union comes every 5 years, they observe and they go back to their country. How can we, as Guyanese, and now I'm talking about Guyanese activists, yourself, myself, others, the formalists and the non-formalists, how can we use this opening that the European Union has given? Of course, it galls you, it galls me that white people say what we know is right. And then when the white people say it, then we open the eye. And we have been saying it forever, and it never got the, But apparently that has been our lot. Our novelists and them had to go back to England and publish their novels there before we start reading them as novels in the Caribbean, and the story go on and on and on. But tell us what we activists have to do now with the opening that the EU has given us.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Hines. And indeed, you're so right. In many cases, I view the EU, the European Union's report, as an echo of what was said by many of us on so many platforms. We spoke to systematic rigging. We spoke to the fact that years ago, the PPP began to prepare themselves for September 1st in terms of how they rigged systems. Registration of Births and Deaths Act. They rigged the system. And the EU, I'm so grateful that the observers saw through them and noticed what they were doing. Now, as activists, to be quite direct in reference to what you're asking, as what we label as activists, one thing that we should do is not say to the people, well, we will no longer speak because we spoke for so long and you still went ahead and did something that's contrary. We'll now be silent. I think the loudness with which we speak is going to cause hope, as I say, to spring eternal in the hearts of Guyanese again. Because there's only so much, and we've said it many times, Dr. Hines, there's only so much that people can take, any human being. The history of the transatlantic slave trade guides me and comforts me that though it took centuries, at some point, my father, I call him, your father on the plantation said, this is enough. We're not going to have this anymore. At some point, though they tried and had many situations, but they said at one point, this is it. From this day, we are going down and we're not going to allow this to happen anymore. And as an activist, though we would not promote violence, what we promote is a violent mentality against that which is wrong. Not to fight people, but you aggressively say, you're not accepting this anymore. Because we cannot deal with 5 more years pandemic if the 5 more years include an intensification of disrespect for Guyanese people. So our position as activists remain even, I should say, it becomes even more important. Because now that the European Union has said what they saw, the question becomes, what do we do about what they've said? How do we encourage people to act? Because Region 10, for example, we are still without a regional chairman. This is historic. This has never happened in the history of our region. We are functioning without a regional chairman, without a vice chairman, and people have lost I should say certain leaders, apparently, have lost the ability to stand and say, well, Linden or Region 10 will not function normally because it's an abnormal environment. So if the Rexo, who's the clerk of the council, has chosen to not recall councillors to have an election, then he would not have an office in which he'll occupy. He wouldn't go to work. He'd not be allowed to enter the building until this happens. Now, you see, when I speak like this, people start trembling because they don't see the power of activism when activism is the means by which we became free as a people. It's just at what level you function. We cannot normalize that which is unjust. And I took a hint from the EU's report that they're saying to Guyanese, listen, you are the ones. They made it very clear. You are the ones who must demand change. Now, of course, they speak very, very cautiously and of course, diplomatically, but they said it to us plainly. You are the ones who must make the elected officials change your experience in the next 5 years. How much clearer can they be? What else should they have said to us? When they said, in other words, become a nation of activists so you can have change. We must duplicate ourselves, triplicate ourselves, and ensure that we multiply so often that the PPP realizes that there are now hundreds of thousands of activists.
activist Apostle London, Nigel London here tonight, taking us to another level. The elections are over, but the consequences of the election experience are with us. And using the Clive Thomas, I go back to Clive Thomas again, the Clive Thomas model of bread and justice, that we should not trade our justice for the promise of bread.
Right.
That bread is important. Um, man must live, and man needs bread to live, but man must not trade his justice for the promise of bread. And I think that is so apt in our conversation here tonight. I remember as a young boy coming into politics having to read that little pamphlet by Clive Thomas, Bread and Justice. At that time, I don't think I understood 100% of what he was saying, but 50% was good enough. And now we are seeing it living out, being lived out, where our people are being bullied to trade their justice for the promise of bread if they behave. And we have to lift our voices. Lift our voices, as the African American Black National Anthem says. Lift every voice and sing.
Every voice.
Lift every voice. And I think, yes, we are a people of multiple ethnicities. I always say the Amerindian people get beat up the most. But we African people, we have the larger voice. Indian people are being muzzled by the logic of our ethnic politics. Right. They would like to raise their voices, to lift their voices and sing. But the logic of ethnic politics doesn't take them. The burden is then left on African people to lift every voice and sing. This country is depending on us. And we must not do as the Bostonians tell us in their national anthem. Thou wilt not cower in the dust. Do not cower in the dust. African people, to the extent that you fight back, Guyana will fight back. To the extent that you grovel and cower, Guyana will grovel and cower. And I think that's the message. My brother and I, in different, same cadence. I was about to say different words, but same cadence, trying to leave you with here tonight, because we have to do this. Were you surprised, Apostle, that the Private Sector Commission now are trying to tell us that what we see with our very eyes is not what we see?
I cannot be surprised, because remember, we're speaking to the Private Sector Commission of the past 5 or more years. They've not been different. And that is because when you have an oligarchy, when wealthy, and for those who are viewing that, of course, when wealthy people control your nation, they're normally found in the business sector, private sector. And in a capitalist society, which we have become, then capital controls the society. The private sector has to speak the way that they do, because they are the ones who benefit the most. When a contract is awarded for a hospital to be built, it is built by someone from the private sector. When these schools that are being built in the bush somewhere that we don't see, but you don't see them being erected either, $250 million, you can't see what comes out of the ground for that work. That benefits the private sector. Many decisions that have been taken to the point whereby the private sector must benefit the most. And so you don't expect them to criticize any process from which they benefit so heavily. What I therefore would like to posit here, if I can, is that Guyanese should identify, and this is activism again, identify those within that very sector who encourage, even through silence, your discomfort and your disquiet, you're unable to live the way you should. No, take mark of who they are and withhold your finances. To some extent, you may have to withhold your service, because we have to be rescued from that which has begun to destroy us as a people. And I think that every Guyanese, we have to be rescued from that which has begun to destroy us. And that is found in the fact that while your economy is exploding, your rate of poverty is increasing. That is the warning sign. That is the red flag that says if you don't act, you'll find yourself like Equatorial Guinea, where over, I think about 70 or more percent of the population is poor, dark poor. And the vice president, who is the president's son, has a net worth of over $300 million US. If you're not careful, we're getting there gradually.
We are getting there. Apostle, I have to pull you out on this. I don't know whether you addressed it on your own program, but I have to pull you out. You and I were on different electoral platforms during the election, and that is known. What is not known is that you called me. As you said, you called me as an elder.
Yeah.
And you were worried that we were going into the election in a fractured way. And we tried to do behind the scenes what we eventually didn't have the strength. Well, let me take that back. We didn't have the scope to do. We had the strength, but not
Right.
the scope to do.
I prefer that.
Yeah. Wrong talk with the wrong talk. Right. We didn't have the scope to do. But the elections are over, and we are in the post-election period. Do you feel the same way as you felt before the election, that it was imperative, at least for those who were in the so-called opposition, to have had a coming together based on clear principles and not expediency? Because when you and I talk, that's where our heads were. That we felt that we were not going to do ourselves a favor if we were going to go into this election divided. And if we went together without a clear principle, we were going to be in the same boat. Address that issue of coalition, coalition building and unity, to fight what is clearly a very hostile political and electoral environment.
Oh my God, Dr. Hines, I'm really emotional, but this is very touching, because I believe that younger men in our society, I'm 52 years old and I still see you as an elder. And what you said, I hope somebody can have a reel of this somewhere, because the technicians know what to do. To know that I could have reached out to you and say, Dr. Hines, I have a concern. We need to have the well-being of our people as being most important. We need to have the semblance, the appearance, and the reality of unity on this side to defeat evil on that side. I value the fact that I was able, like you with Ron Robinson, I was able to experience you, and I'm able to experience you in ways that others may not be able to find within you that elderly wisdom to say, this is the best thing for us to do. This is the best course of action for us to take. And if we do not take that course of action, then there's a reality that we're going to face. And the reason why I'm so touched by this is because I went to wash a vehicle today. And the person who's operating the machine at the wash bay, a man said, hey, that's the pastor, that's the man who was so vibrant and everything as an election. And he said, the fellow operating the wash bay said, but they didn't get together. Elections have long gone, and he said, but they didn't unite. They didn't all come together. And then he said something that I will never forget. He said, and because he didn't do that, we say we're not going to vote. That touched me because what was demanded of all was coalescing, not competing. I still believe and look forward to 2030 or probably before that there will be, based on this experience, a meeting of minds that state that together we shall lead the nation, though one would preside over it. And that is what you and I had so clearly in our minds. Together we shall lead the nation, all of us, with one presiding over it. And that's why the person is called a president. I still have hope within my heart that our conversation would not die without us both having an opportunity to see the beauty of unity. And that's a reminder, viewers, of your experience in Parliament, where an Indian brother in Ganesh stood up, an African brother, just to see clearer. Say, let's read together. Let me help you so you can see the words a little larger. That, I would never forget that. Because if we take that into our politics, look at how we're going to be. Where brothers and sisters will say, it's not you, doctors, are standing on the floor to take your oath, but I could stand with you that I don't have to speak. You, doctors, can be the president, but I can shine a light on something to help you to see clearer in our nation. That is the future that I desire for our nation. And I applaud you for taking my call as you are an elder and say, you are seeing correctly. This is the course of action that we should take. And though it did not turn out the way it should have, look at us here tonight, speaking on a platform and not saying that you from this and I from Fort Ghana movement, we can't talk together. We have to be opposed. We don't have to be opponents in the interests of our future. We can have opposing views without becoming opponents. Because you love Guyana, Dr. Hines. I love Guyana, Dr. Hines. You love our African brothers and sisters. I love our African brothers and sisters. But it's important that you said something, and I waited for this moment. They call you racist, but yet you still about it, I love you. I hope that Bath, Annandale, some parts of region 2, I hope you all, Prabhupada Creek and other places, I hope that those areas that are predominantly of Indian descent, I hope you listen to this. The man you call racist says to the one who is seen as probably the most racist of all, and how people see him sometimes, I love you, and I hope you get better. That shows the nature of an elder, where you know when to go to war and when to mend the wounds of a wounded soldier. That doesn't come easily. And that cannot come from a racist. I applaud you. And I'm not going to wait for your funeral to say I applaud you. I'm not going to wait until the ancestors, as you would have said, receive you for me to applaud you. Because you've earned the right for me to speak about you in your presence, as I should say, on social media space, and tell the world that to me, you are one who was humble enough to say, in that tense environment, by the way, critical moment, this is the course that we should take. And this is a safe course to take. Nonetheless, you allowed me, like an elder would do, be a man, make a decision, but we're still okay. Kudos.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my brother. And what a way to bring our program to an end tonight. As I say, we are fighting politics, we are fighting party, but we are fighting to restore humanity to a space that has not always been human. Your closing thoughts, my brother.
I must say to us tonight that the tone of this program is not common. This broadcast is quite uncommon in reference to its tone. And I'm happy that it is and would have been, because the direction which our nation is headed requires us being quite thoughtful, but also very strategic and courageous. too much is happening in our society. We have a parliament without an official opposition leader. And we have those who call leaders who are playing in our faces because they apparently would like to see how far they can go before we stop them from going there. And our nation, even at this moment, we're wondering what would happen if the US decides that tonight is the night. We were not consulted. There were no town hall meetings. If I didn't see the need to convene or say, listen, let's have a special parliamentary forum to discuss these matters. Our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago and other places, they're facing so much anxiety, the Caribbean. And we don't have the decency in leadership to say, let us have a conversation that's bipartisan and in the interest of us as a people. We need to have, therefore, a restoration of confidence in what we know to be good governance. And I think it's possible. It is possible when all of us as leaders stand together and we decide that we're not going to oppose each other, but rather we're going to uphold one another and fight at another time.
Thank you very much, Pastor Apostle London. Always you bring to this program and to other programs a clarity of thought, a sincerity that is sometimes absent from our discourse. Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you, brother.
The older she gets, the sweeter her voice becomes. A former member of
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Equal right. I've studied days and nights, I've studied blacks and whites on the question of equal rights. I say I studied days and nights, studied blacks and whites on the question of equal rights. Well, after careful consideration, meditation has brought me to one conclusion. The old, the young, the weak and the strong, only fighting a battle of equal wrong. Because everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat each other with scorn. The color of your skin doesn't mean a thing. Live and love and be satisfied. You already have your rights, so there is no need to fight. The right to live is the right to die. Thank you. It is a simple case that we cannot be faced. We all belong to the human race. So you can tell your bud, we all are made of mud, equivalently equal, by flesh and blood. So what's the use of all this confusion, discrimination and fight for worldly possession? The rich, the poor, the weak and the small are equal in size when the master call. That's right. Everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat your brother with scorn. We have the same earth to live, the same life to give, and yet we will not unite. with those who show such gratitude. The breath of life we share, the sun, the moon, and air are equal rights given to us here. We may not be the same in culture, skill, and name, or in habits, fortune, and fame. No matter who, why, what, when, and where. Now show me a man that's unequal here. Everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat each other with scorn. No matter what you possess, well, you don't have to guess. The master said, let there be light. Someday you will agree. Just take time and see. Everyone has an equal life. Now there are foolish men who know but still pretend. The laws of nature try to amend. No matter what you feel, the truth you can't conceal. And for sure, what is real is real. We may not be the same in culture, skill, and name, or in habits, fortune, and fame. No matter who, why, what, when, and where. Just show me one man that is equal here. Everyone is born equal, with an equal right to be born. And everyone is equal, so don't treat your sister with scorn. We may differ in looks, in language, in shape, in ways, or even in height. But please don't forget, in life or in death, everyone has an equal life.